All right, so are you ready to dive into some Kendrick?
Always ready for some K-Dot.
Today we're looking at the early reactions to this new surprise album, GNX.
Oh yeah, this one's got people talking, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's Kendrick, so like expectations are sky high, right? The Pulitzer, the wordplay, the whole package.
Yeah, he set a pretty high bar for himself.
Exactly, and this GNX album, it's definitely different. It's got people throwing around words like lackluster and misstep, but then others are praising those West Coast vibes.
Yeah, you really see that divide in the reviews. Some folks are just not feeling it at all, and others are, like, totally on board.
So that's what we're going to unpack today. Like, what is it about this album that's got everyone so fired up? What's working, what's not? And maybe, spark some thoughts for you listening at home.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's kick things off with this whole West Coast sound thing. It seems like that's a major point of contention.
Yeah, one reviewer straight up said they hate this style, like it totally colored their whole opinion of the album.
It's interesting how someone's personal taste can, like, completely overshadow the actual music.
Right, like if you already come in hating on a certain sound,
Yeah?
are you even giving the album a fair shot?
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about this West Coast sound.
Well, it's all about those heavy beats that focus on rhythm and grooves, often pulling from funk and soul.
Right, it's like that classic California vibe.
Exactly. And Kendrick, he doesn't just borrow those elements. He, like, weaves them into something new, something unique.
So it's not just about the sound itself, it's how he uses it to create a mood to tell a story.
Exactly. Like, take Waxed Out Murals, for example. The reviewer called the production generic. But if you really listen to how Kendrick uses those layers, synths and bass lines, it's like this psychedelic, disorienting feeling.
Oh, wow, I see what you mean.
It's like he's using the sound to mirror the themes he's explored in the lyrics.
Okay, so speaking of the lyrics, that's another thing that's got people talking about it. Words like ego tripping and ratchet are being thrown around, which is kind of different from what we're used to with Kendrick, right?
It is a noticeable shift.
Like, we're used to the complex, socially conscious stuff, but this feels more, boastful, maybe.
Yeah, and I think we got to consider the whole Drake rivalry here.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like, Kendrick's coming off this very public win, and you can definitely hear that confidence, that swagger in his delivery this time around.
So he's leaning into that winner persona. But is it genuine, or is there more to it? Like, is it a character? Is it satire? What do you think?
That's a million-dollar question, right? It's tough to say for sure, but there are definitely moments where it feels like he's playing with those expectations, like Squabble Up, for example. It's full of braggadocio, but there's also this layer of irony, this self-awareness of the whole ego-tripping thing.
Okay, I'm really intrigued. Now I'm going to have to go back and listen with that in mind.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a closer listen.
So we've got this West Coast sound driving the vibe and these potentially ironic lyrics on top. But what about the actual production, the nuts and bolts of the music? One reviewer mentioned Soundwave, and they seem pretty excited about it.
Oh yeah, Soundwave, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, fill us in on who this guy is and why he's so important.
So Soundwave, he's like Kendrick's sonic architect. He's been there since the beginning, producing those classic albums, shaping that Kendrick sound we all know and love.
So what does he bring to GNX? Is it more the same, or are they trying something new together?
Well, it's a bit of both, actually.
Yeah.
You can definitely hear that signature Soundwave energy and punch.
Yeah.
But there's also a playfulness, a lightness that's maybe a little different.
Oh, really? Like, which tracks would you point to for that?
Well, A Now is a good example. You got those chopped up vocal samples, these bouncy synths. It's like they're having fun with the West Coast sound, twisting it into something fresh.
So is that what we're seeing with GNX overall, this idea of artistic experimentation?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. It's like Kendrick has taken everything we know about his sound, about West Coast hip hop, and saying, what if I flip the script? What if I turn expectations on their head?
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. Now, this album's got a lot of tracks, and each one seems to be sparking different reactions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Should we dive into some of those?
Let's do it. I'm really curious to hear your take on some of these standout tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned Waxed Out Murals earlier, and that seems to be a pretty divisive one.
Yeah, some people are loving that psychedelic vibe, and others are like, whoa, too much.
Yeah, one reviewer called it chaotic, but isn't that kind of the point?
Exactly. It's like Kendrick is purposely creating this sense of disorientation, this feeling of being overwhelmed, which I think ties into some of the themes he's exploring lyrically.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just random chaos, it's intentional chaos.
Right. It's like he's using the music to mirror the feeling of, like, information overload that we all experience in this digital age.
I like that. So he's using the sound itself to convey a deeper meaning.
Exactly. It's really clever when you think about it.
Okay, what about Luther? That's another one that got some mixed reactions.
Yeah, one reviewer actually complained about the length. They thought it was underdeveloped.
Really? I thought it was pretty impactful.
Me too. It's like a punch to the gut, this burst of raw energy.
And the way he uses those distorted vocals, it's almost like screams.
Right. It creates this sense of urgency, of frustration. It's a powerful statement, even if it's over in a flash.
I totally agree. Sometimes less is more.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Man at the Garden, which is another short one.
Yeah, the reviewer on that one felt like Kendrick was holding back, not fully exploring the ideas.
I actually disagree with that. I think the restraint in that track is what makes it so effective.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
It's so sparse, almost minimalist in its production. You have that haunting piano melody, the subtle vocal harmonies, and it creates this sense of isolation, of introspection.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like a moment of quiet reflection amidst all the chaos.
Exactly. It's a nice contrast to some of the more high-energy tracks.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Like Kendrick is using these different sonic approaches to convey specific emotions to create these very deliberate moods.
Exactly. And Reincarnated is another great example of that.
Yeah, the reviewer mentioned Kendrick experimenting with different vocal styles.
And it's true. He's rapping, he's singing, he's almost chanting at times.
Yeah.
It's like he's shedding different personas, trying on different identities.
Which makes sense given the theme of reinvention of rebirth that runs throughout the album.
Right, it's all connected.
Okay, now TV off. This one's got that crazy moment that kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, that Mustang JGHFMVHBRNMAMFDD part, it's definitely jarring.
Yeah, it's like he just throws this curveball out of nowhere.
But it's brilliant. It's so unexpected, and it really breaks free from the conventions of traditional hip-hop.
It's like he's saying, I'm not going to be boxed in. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Exactly. And that fearlessness is what makes him such a compelling artist.
Okay, now we got to talk about Heart 6. This one seems to be disappointing a lot of fans, especially those who love the previous Heart tracks.
Yeah, those earlier Heart tracks were so personal, so confessional, and musically, they had this certain gravity to them.
Right, they were heavy.
Exactly. Heart 6 is definitely different. It's more upbeat, almost playful, but with a hint of melancholy underneath.
So is it a bad song? Or is it just different?
I don't think it's bad at all. It's just unexpected. And maybe that's the point. Maybe Kendrick is deliberately subverting our expectations, forcing us to confront our own assumptions about what a Heart track should sound like.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like he's saying, just because I did something one way before doesn't mean I'm bound to do it that way forever.
Right? It's all about growth and evolution.
And speaking of evolution, the final two tracks, NX and Gloria, they seem to be wrapping up this whole journey.
Yeah, NX with its unconventional structure and experimental beat. It's a fitting title track, I think. It really embodies the album's overall theme of pushing boundaries.
And Gloria being the album closer, how did you feel about that one? The reviews seem mixed. Some felt it was a weak ending, others found it profound.
I think Gloria is the perfect encapsulation of this whole album. It's messy, it's ambiguous, it's full of contradictions.
And that's what makes it so compelling.
Exactly. It doesn't tie everything up neatly. It leaves you with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
And isn't that what great art should do?
Yeah, I think you're right. This isn't an album you passively listen to. It's an album that demands your attention, that forces you to engage with it on a deeper level.
Exactly. And that's what sets Kendrick apart from so many other artists. He's not just making music, he's creating experiences. He's making us think, he's making us feel, he's making us question.
So now that we've talked about some of the individual tracks, let's zoom out a bit. What's the overall reception been like? How are people feeling about GNX as a whole?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the reactions are all over the place. Some people are calling it his best work, yet others are completely baffled, even angry.
Wow, so it's really that polarizing, huh?
It seems like people either love it or hate it with very little middle ground.
Which kind of tells you something, right? It means Kendrick is doing something that's provoking a strong emotional response.
Absolutely. Love it or hate it. You can't deny that GNX is a bold statement. It's a departure from what we've come to expect from Kendrick, and that's both exciting and unsettling.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much weight we should give to these early reactions, both from critics and fans.
It's true. We're bombarded with opinions all the time. But I think it's important to remember that art is a subjective experience.
Right. What resonates with one person might completely miss the mark for another.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to how you feel about a piece of music.
So what's your advice to our listeners? How should they approach GNX?
Go in with an open mind. Don't let the hype or the negative reviews influence your experience. Listen to it for yourself multiple times if you need to. Sit with it, let it digest, and see how it makes you feel.
That's good advice. It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is saying.
Yeah, but ultimately it's your own experience that matters.
Okay, so we've talked about the West Coast sound, the lyrics, the production, the individual tracks, the overall reception. It's been a pretty deep dive.
It has, and I think it brings up some interesting questions about artistic evolution.
Yeah, like, does an artist owe it to their fans to stay consistent? Or is it more important for them to follow their own creative impulses, even if it means alienating some listeners along the way?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Great.
And there's no easy answer.
Yeah, it's a complex issue. But I think in Kendrick's case, he's chosen to follow his own path, even if it means ruffling some feathers.
And I respect that. I think it takes a lot of courage to do what he's doing, to push boundaries and challenge expectations.
Absolutely. So what are your final thoughts on GNX? Where do you think it fits into Kendrick's overall legacy?
That's a tough one.
No.
I think it's too early to say for sure, but I do believe that GNX will be seen as a pivotal moment in his career
Oh, really? Why is that?
because it marks a clear shift in his artistic direction. It's like he's entering a new phase, new chapter.
So you see it as a positive step forward.
I do, even though it's a challenging album. It's an album that makes you think, makes you feel, makes you question. And those are the qualities of truly great art.
I couldn't agree more. Well said. So to our listeners, if you haven't already, go check out GNX and let us know what you think. Hit us up on social media. We want to hear your thoughts, your reactions, your interpretations.
Yeah, we're all ears.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those ears open for the unexpected. It's interesting, though, like this whole idea of an artist evolving their sound. Some fans are all for it, but others feel like it's a betrayal almost.
Yeah, it's like they feel ownership over the artist's sound.
Right. It's like, hey, this isn't the Kendrick I fell in love with.
And it's understandable to a certain extent. Like, you connect with an artist's music on a personal level.
Yeah, it becomes part of your life, you know, like
Yeah.
the soundtrack to your memories.
Exactly. So when that sound changes, it can feel like a loss.
But then there's the other side of the coin, like you were saying earlier. There are fans who are all about that evolution, who want to see artists push boundaries and take risks.
Yeah, those are the fans who are probably loving GNX, even if it's not an easy listen.
So it really comes down to what you value as a listener, I guess. Like, do you want the comfort of familiarity, or are you more into the thrill of the unknown?
Yeah. Are you looking for something that soothes you or something that challenges you?
Because GNX, it's definitely challenging people.
Oh, yeah. It's making people confront their expectations about what a Kendrick Lamar album should be.
And that can be uncomfortable for some.
Absolutely. But it can also be really rewarding.
Okay, so let's say you're one of those fans who's not feeling GNX. Does that mean all of Kendrick's previous work is somehow diminished? Like, is GNX a stain on his legacy?
I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
If anything, I think GNX might actually enhance our appreciation for his older albums.
Oh, really? How so?
Because it shows us how much he's grown as an artist. It's like he's constantly evolving, experimenting, searching for new ways to express himself.
So instead of seeing GNX as this like radical departure, we should see it as part of a larger artistic journey.
Exactly. Each album is like a chapter in a book.
In this chapter, it might be a little different, a little unexpected, but it's still part of the same story.
Yeah, and it might even make you appreciate the earlier chapters even more.
This is making me want to go back and listen to all those older albums now. Like, to see if I hear them differently, knowing where Kendrick has ended up with GNX.
I think you should. It's always interesting to revisit an artist's work after they've released something new. It's like you're seeing it with fresh eyes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So to our listener, if you're still on the fence about GNX, I highly recommend giving it another listen. Go in with an open mind and see what you discover.
Yeah, don't let the hype or the negative reviews sway you. It's your own personal experience that matters.
And you know what? Even if you don't end up loving GNX, the fact that it sparked this much discussion, this much debate, that's pretty incredible in itself.
It's a testament to Kendrick's artistry that he can still elicit such strong reactions from people.
Absolutely. So yeah, go check out GNX, wrestle with it, contemplate it, and let us know what you think. We're always down to hear your thoughts, your reactions, your interpretations.
Yeah, hit us up on social media. We want to keep the conversation going.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. It's been a wild ride.
It has, but a good one.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those ears open for the unexpected. You never know what Kendrick might throw at us next.
Well, that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
You got that right. Thanks for joining us.